What is up, everybody? We are back here to talk about the Illinois Final Illini football team. Make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow and rate on Apple and iTunes and, and Spotify. It will help the podcast tremendously. Check out all the other episodes on the YouTube channel. Lots and lots of interviews with high school coaches and football coaches. We're going to try to grow this a little bit and get different guests on here, but check all that out. Get back to talking about, get back to our roots and talking about the Illinois Final Illini football team. Now, why are we talking about the Illinois Illini football team right now? Well, they are in spring ball, so why are we talking about them? I had the great honor. They hosted their Illinois High Schools Association football clinic. It was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Saturday was an open practice for their first padded practice, and I was able to be invited and go down and be able to watch. You got to be right on the field, which was amazing. You got to be right by drills. As long as you weren't in the way of anything, you got to be right there. So I got to see firsthand their first padded practice. You got to see some new players. You got to see what the offense might look like. You might see what the defense might look like for a little bit. Now, we can't put into consideration everything. You can't sit there and we can't, quote unquote, overreact from spring ball. But spring ball is a good measuring point of where they're going to be, what they might look like. Again, new players coming in, the different coaches on coaching staff there. So we got to see a little bit of all that. And so from watching practice and how they conduct themselves, what they look like, I'm here to tell you they are going to be improved, me personally, going into the fall. We'll get more as spring ball goes on, when we get the spring game, when we get into the summer, obviously, and then they start to have reports coming out in the fall. Illinois did not live up to the expectations they had last year, going 5-7. Coming into this year, they're going to have different pieces. They've lost a lot of their defensive players, especially on the defensive line. They've lost a couple of their wide receivers. They lost a couple offensive linemen. They really made an emphasis coming into this year to make sure, especially up front, that they were going to have more depth up front, especially at the O-line position. The O-line position had a lot of criticism, and they had took a lot of heat, but they were never always 100% healthy. When you think about the Illinois team last year, they were in some games. They fought in some games. They let some games slip out of their fingers. Some were close. So now they have to learn how to finish. And so I'm going to talk about the practice that I observed, some of the players, what they look like offensively, a little bit what they're going to look like on defense, just from what I saw. Only had a couple inside run periods. You had some team periods where it was heavy run, quick passing game, long passing game. But I'm going to talk about how they structured practice. And more that I watched it, the more and more I'm going to sit here and tell people that we have to relax. We have to trust what's going on. And that Coach Bielema was the right guy for the job. As of right now, obviously, we could be sitting here saying different. But I think that he is going to end up being the right person for the job. Obviously, we go 5-7 the first year. Next year, we go 8-5, get to a bowl game. And then, we kind of took a step backwards, quote unquote, but it was a brand new team in this transfer portal era. People leaving. Now they have to bring people in for the transfer portal. I'm going to talk about how the coaches conduct themselves. They conducted themselves very professionally on the field. They were all business. You could tell there was a sense of urgency. The way they had their practices, as soon as that horn went off and they had to go to their next period, it looked like a well-oiled machine. There was a couple former players, Illinois players, not for Coach Bielema, but from previous years at Illinois that were there watching. I had the great chance to talk to them, and they were so impressed about how the practice was going, how quickly they were getting through drills, how quickly the coaches were coaching them, how they got from one spot to the other, how very organized it was. And the great part was Coach Bielema just stood back and was able to take notes on everybody, to go to different position groups and able to observe them. That allowed him to really evaluate, because the coaches are going to evaluate, but they're also trying to coach their entire position. If you're with the O-line and you've got 10 to 12 guys down there. You have the film, obviously, but in real time, Coach Bielema can walk down there for about 2 minutes and able to see it. He can go look at special teams. He can walk over and check out the quarterbacks. They can look at all of those pieces, or he can look at all of those pieces. And then the coaches just made it run like a well-oiled machine. And there was a sense of urgency. And we'll be in the full padded practice, the offense going versus the defense, they were getting after it. There was some trash talking. There was a lot of physicality going on. There was a drill where it was an offensive lineman blocking a defensive lineman. The running back had to get through after the quarterback got him the ball, whether it was a toss, a handoff. They were able to move everybody back and forth. Became a very competition. They did a lot of team segments, offense versus defense, and it was very, very competitive. So right from the get-go, the urgency of we have no time to waste. Talking to the coaches, they understand that the fans want us to be good all the time. That's the standard. They don't accept 5 and 7. They really hit the recruiting. And so I think just from watching them be much improved. Some of the initial takeaways that I got was the coaches were very energetic. The players were very energetic. The big story last year was talking about defense. We kept comparing to the 2022 defense, to the 2023 defense. I didn't think that was fair because you had a different defensive coordinator. You had, different defensive players. We weren't going to have the exact same players as before. So I always thought that was unfair. But that was one of the things that I was peeking at was, what's the defense going to look like? What's that defensive line going to look like? Because the defensive line lost a lot of players, but they hit that transfer portal hard. They've got Anthony Johnson. He came from Youngstown State. Sledge, he came from Auburn. Florida State, Briggs, they got him from Florida State. Another nose guard, Edwards. You got a sophomore, Alex Bray. Jeremiah Warren. First-year freshman, they had McCollum. They have Demarius John. Then Eddie Turk, who I actually coached against. He's from Lyons Township. I coached against him. He's a big dude. He was there. I personally think he's built more like an offensive lineman, but for right now, he's been on the defensive side. I will say, don't be surprised if you see him get switched to the offensive line, because even looking at him, he does look like an offensive lineman, to be honest with you. But you're going to have to, and then they got Terrence Jameson for the coaching staff for their defensive line. Comes with a lot of experience, because you're going to have to replace some NFL talent there, the defensive line. With all of those names getting transfers in, I personally think they're going to be able to plug in there. And I think if you have multiple defensive linemen that are there, they're going to be able to rotate. I think if these guys look pretty multiple, they were moving them around on the defensive line. And the defensive linemen, they had some speed. They're pretty big. They brought some speed. And I think that combination is going to work well in the Big Ten, obviously, because of the style of offense they're going to see. They're going to have their spread. Like when you go to Oregon, it's going to be that fast pace, up tempo, different things like that. But when you play and Wisconsin now is not your traditional under center, ground and pound type of team, that defensive line is going to be built for this brand new Big 10 or Big 20, whatever we're going to call it. That defensive line and the way they were running around looked good. Their new linebackers. That was another thing. I was talking to a former offensive lineman that played at the U of I. The linebackers were always there. Any pass play, the linebackers were flying around getting there. Run play, they were in the spot that they needed to be in. They were there. And last year, that was one of the things coming into the season was, how are the linebackers going to be? You have some new guys in there, maybe some undersized guys. They were there. They had linebackers flying all over the place. And the next part, especially from last year, was the secondary. Like, how are we going to replace the secondary? And last year, didn't stay healthy. You have a new defensive coordinator. They tried to run a lot of man like they did the year before. They really evaluated themselves, still played some man, but they also had to get into some zone. Watching the team part of Illinois where they were just in true passing situations, there was a lot of times Luke Altmaier threw the ball. It was going to be where it needed to be, and then out of nowhere, shot out of a cannon, their safety or corner, especially the safeties, come flying in and broke it up. And there was one play where they was just bang, bang. They got there super quick. We all coaches looked at each other and we went, holy shit, that was quick. The secondary looks very fast. They look very confident. And I'm standing right there near Coach Bielema in the end zone when this was happening. There is some swagger to that secondary. That swagger and that confidence, even when they caught passes, they were rallying to the football. There was some swagger. There was some confidence there. Even when the offense was able to complete a pass, they were so confident and so quick that I think that they're going to be able to fly around, make some plays, make some tackles. That defense just looked so much faster. Nothing against last year's defense, the year before. They just look very quick. And I think that we're going to be able to make some turnovers. Now that they still play man, yes, the offense with motion, they're running. But I think when you have that type of speed, you're able to run a little bit more man. And the thing that I noticed is they were in man, they were in zone. They would just hop into a bunch of different things, which is a next step from what it was last year. Now you have a year under your belt. If you're Coach Henry, calling defense, the type of speed, now you can maybe get into a little bit of what you want to do. If you've got the speedy, big defensive lineman up front, now you can give different looks instead of a 3-4 look. You're sometimes going to be able to hop into that even man. So I think from that side of the ball, not saying they're going to be quite as NFL style. You're going to have to rotate guys in, obviously, but that's not actually a problem, like a negative problem. That can be a good problem to have, where third down, you can have a couple new guys in there. And then if they get the first down, you don't necessarily have to get those guys back in. If they can handle playing the first down type of plays, keep them in there, able to stay fresh, fly around, and make some plays. It's not a bad thing to have. And so from that perspective and how physical they're being, I know it's spring ball, it's the first day of pads. People are still trying for the team. There's going to be some guys there that I saw, maybe not there. Once spring ball's ended and they're getting into the summer, they may have to have conversation with guys. This is where you stack up, and they may hit the transfer portal. Totally possible, because there was a lot of guys there on roster, and because it became a tryout. The big talk, obviously, from last year is the offense. You know, times that Luke Altmaier looked really good, times he didn't, and then you're going to have to bring in, you know, a different quarterback. And they had a lot of quarterbacks there throwing the ball around. They had a lot of guys there that were, you know, trying to be the guy. And so if you want to talk from the quarterback position, Luke Altmaier's fast. There was times where he had to take off, and obviously they blow the whistle quick because you're not supposed to hit the quarterback. His speed, I think, is underrated. Someone said that he could keep up with a lot of those guys running, and the times that he broke away on runs, he was able to do that. And they were really coaching him hard on staying in the pocket, making the good throw. We don't always have to take off and run. And they're really pushing him hard on that. They're really coaching him up on that day. I think he's going to grow into that guy. I think that's one thing he's going to be able to do. Another quarterback that looked pretty good, Donovan Leary, did not look bad at all. He was pushing Trey Petty. Like, I think all the quarterbacks that were able to get some reps actually looked pretty good. So that's another good problem that Illinois is going to have from picking the quarterback position. And a really good coach there for them was Coach Statowski. He played, you know, the couple of years under Bielema, had some games. Watching him coach and relate to the players, and having a guy that has seen those type of situations in his playing career, now coaching the quarterbacks, able to help a Luke Altmaier try to grow in that position, really is good for them. Watching him coach, that's going to be really good throughout the season, having him in the ear of those quarterbacks. Running backs, oh my goodness, they look huge. They look absolutely huge. It's a big, and I'm not talking about because there's a lot of running backs. They were big physically, and they ran hard. They ran really, really hard. When they were inside run, you know, Caden was running really hard. Josh McCray is a huge human being. That guy is a huge human being. He looks like an SEC type running back that's playing in the Big Ten. In the inside run period, They ran an inside zone. He put his foot down. He pushed that pile, not to Chase Brown extent, but that guy is a man. And the combination of him and Caden Fegan, it's going to be a tough duo to stop in that run game. If they get confident and they are running with a purpose and they choose to not be tackled, that's going to be a combination in the Big Ten that's everybody's going to be talking about. Everybody's going to be talking about it. So watch out for that running back room. And they had other great running backs in there, but those two, the combination of those two, because they're big human beings, they're running hard, their legs are huge, and it's not because of that. They are also quick. They have a wicked first step. Their pass blocking looked much improved when they were in their past situations. That is going to really come in handy as they get into the fall. Wide receiver group. Who's going to be the guy? That's been my question since Coach Bielema's gotten there. Who's going to be the guy? You're losing a couple wide receivers from last year. So who is going to be the guy? Pat Bryant looked really good. He is going to be that guy. Now, the next step after, if that's going to be the guy, what happens after that? I really don't know who their next guy is, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing because who are you going to throw the ball to if Pat Bryant is covered? The good thing is the wide receivers were wicked fast. They were getting off the ball quick. They were making some catches that I thought were in some tight windows where, again, the linebackers were there to make the play. They were just a 0.3 seconds away from getting the interception or tipping it. But in those tight windows, these young receivers were making plays. And the beauty is they were, I know I keep saying everybody was fast, and maybe it's because I'm seeing it live and it's not on TV. The wide receiver group looked like one of the fastest ones outside of Isaiah Williams. They were just all very, very quick. And I think that's going to be great because I don't think that even though we need to push the ball down the field, they try to push the ball down the field, and they're going to have that threat with Pat Bryant. And some of these receivers are going to break because of how quick they are. The short route passing game and the intermediate passing game, it looked great. Luke Altmaier was throwing it, incredibly hard, throwing it where they could catch it in those intermediate short passes. And the receivers were so quick to get there. I think that's going to and able to make plays after the catch because of how quick they were, eluding away from the tackles. That's going to be huge. And that's a next step in this wide receiver development that we needed to see over Coach Brent Bielema's time here, able to make those type of plays. And so if they can continue to grow, continue to use that quickness, and once we get all that down, now we're able to push the ball a little bit farther down the field. I think that's going to be a huge improvement. I'm telling you this right now from seeing it live firsthand, not on the news, not on TV, seeing it live, how quick they were, how physical they were blocking as well. I think we're finally going to get those pieces there where we can do those because we're missing a couple of those things. We're missing kind of who's the guy you're going to throw it to on 3rd and 5. Who's the next guy? Who's the next guy? Like those type of things. How are we going to do that? And I think we're finally going to start to see that next step in that evolution. And then obviously the offensive line. The offensive line took a lot of heat last year, a lot of criticism. I had Coach Bart Miller on. Please go check out that episode. It's one of my most recent ones where I talked to Coach Bart Miller. We talk about recruiting. We talk about the offensive line improvement from last year, how last year went. I mean, you talk about one of the first games. He had a lot of backups in that maybe necessarily weren't ready to go. The offensive line, there was a lot of them there. A lot of offensive linemen there. So they really focused on the depth part, which was a problem for them last year. They have guys. They're big. Chrysler, oh my God, he is a huge. Zion Chrysler is a huge, huge human being. I'm 6'5", and I walked by him just to see, and he is a big man, and he is very physical. One offensive lineman that I was really impressed with was Melvin Presley. That guy, we called him a bulldog or like a bowling ball. He would plow into somebody If that guy got off the block or the run play was this way and he went that way, he went to go find other people to hit. And the offensive lineman looked like a well-oiled machine. There was a couple bumps there. Coach Miller and I talked afterwards. He's trying to get some guys used to how they practice, the speed that they practice at. He was really on them, but they looked together. They were communicating well together. They had each other's back. Offensive lineman's just not being out there, being a big guy, pushing people around. When you plug somebody new in, it does take a little bit to have that cohesiveness. But seeing the entire group working together was awesome. Watching them blow the defensive line off the ball a few times, watching the one-on-one blocks to help out the running back. They were able to block some of the defensive linemen one-on-one. And so watching them do that was an awesome thing to see. I think the offensive linemen are going to be much improved. They're going to be big. They were big. They were fast. They had wicked first steps. And watching them in their inside zone and wide zone, they wanted to block to the whistle. They wanted to be very physical. And I think that you're going to have way more depth at that position. They were rotating groups in a lot during their team time. Some of them, you miss a step, obviously. And he kept putting in different groups, different combinations, and watching them sometimes not even miss a beat. They put the backup quarterback in. They put their backup offensive lineman in. They didn't miss a beat. They still looked the same. They were very physical, and where Illinois is going to live, especially, and another group I didn't talk about was the tight ends. They had some big tight ends. They had some physical tight ends. There was one, they ran a split zone. That tight end came across from his wing position, blasted that defensive end or the linebacker that came down. That type of physicality. This team has a chip on their shoulder, and you felt the urgency. Like, it's just spring ball. And the urgency that you felt, the way they were moving around, they are not accepting that 5-7 record. They know they could have played better. And what kind of shows that is they didn't lose a lot to the portal. Not a lot at all. They could have said, this is the coach's fault. This is so-and-so's fault. Go listen to my talk with Coach Bart Miller. We talked about this exact topic. And the fact that a lot of them came back, unfinished business, they don't accept that 5-7. There is a sense of urgency there. I think that's another big reason why we're going to see a much improved Illinois football team coming into the fall. Now, some of this is on hopes and prayers and dreams, but I am sitting here to tell you that I truly, honestly believe that just watching a practice in spring that made it feel like a fall practice, that tells you that they're ready to go. And their schedule is favorable, but it's not going to be one of those easy schedules either, especially when you have to go play the likes of Oregon and those type of teams. It's not going to be easy, but there's a sense of urgency. They understand that Coach Bielema wants to be successful now. The coaches want to be successful now. They want to be as physical as they humanly possible. Watching that practice, seeing those different position groups, the different question marks they were going to have. Some of them are good problems. Some of them are bad problems. But the good problems mix in with the bad problems. And so I think that we're going to see a much faster team. They're going to fly to the football. Running the football with those tight ends, it's going to be awesome. The inside zone looked good. The wide zone looked good. They ran a little bit of the play side, GT. And watching them drill that, the offensive linemen are physical. They want to hit somebody, and they want to continue to go find work. And that's some of the things we weren't seeing last year because, again, putting some inexperienced guys in there, the depth wasn't there. But I think us Illini fans should be happy. We're happy with the basketball team, obviously, and the women's basketball team. This football team is going to be much improved. They may not necessarily blow people out of the water, but it's going to be a dogfight is another vibe that I was getting from this team. Whoever team they play, if they win or lose, that other team is going to earn the win, or Illinois is going to grind it out, and they're going to win by 7 to 14 points, but they're going to learn how to finish. And every drill, they had to finish. They had to finish. They had to go through it during team. You have to finish the play. You have to finish this because they did not finish a lot of games last year. And so I really do think we're going to get a much improved football team this year. Us fans are earning for it, especially that 8-5 year. And he knows that the fans are earning for it. We do have to be patient because of where, again, We were very patient. We're very patient with Brett Underwood and the basketball program. Look where it came from. The Illinois program, yeah, we got there in year 2 and we were able to have some success, but they weren't even satisfied with that. They were 7-1, all of a sudden end up 8-5. They were not satisfied with that. They knew coming into last year was going to be a new team. They were not satisfied. There's a chip on their shoulder. They know they could have played a lot better. Coaches know they could have played a lot better. So they're really getting after in spring ball. I know a lot of teams say that, but seeing it up close, you had the vibes that this was like a fall practice. Getting after it, game planning. This is exactly the type of practice we were getting from. And on top of it, they were having fun. Even though there was a chip on their shoulder and they're working hard, when something good happened, every single person was hooping and hollering, offense, defense. You almost wanted to start cheering for whatever happened, but you couldn't because are you cheering for the offense or are you cheering for the defense? You were getting pumped up as well watching the practice to have that type of energy. So if they have that type of energy coming into the summer, coming into the fall, it's going to be a much improved football team. That's just the bottom line. So seeing it live, getting up close and personal to it, it's going to be a good season. Not saying they're going to win every game. I foresee a bowl game. I foresee them competing in the Big Ten. Obviously, the more we go through and the more information and the more practices they do, especially after the spring game. In the spring game, you guys are going to be able to see what I kind of saw. Watch out for the Illinois football team. It's going to be much improved. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, obviously. Follow it right on Apple and iTunes. Check out all the other episodes. I cannot stress enough. Go check out the one with Coach Bart Miller if you're an Illinois fan. We talk about recruiting, how the recruiting world has changed, transfer portal. Looking forward to the Illinois football season. It's a good episode, so I recommend you check that out. And check out all the other episodes. A lot of great talks. Watch out for some updates to the podcast, possibly. Getting some different media guys. Like just hang on. We're gonna go. So thank you guys for watching and or listening. Follow at Coach_Steve72 on X or Twitter. There's the Facebook group, the Coach Steve Show. There's a Coach Steve Show, Twitter as well, or X as well. Instagram, Coach Steve72, all that good stuff. So thank you guys for watching and or listening. This is Coach Steve. Go Illini. We'll see you guys next time.